Welcome everyone to the July 20th, 2020 Columbus City Council meeting. In compliance with the Open Meeting Act, Nebraska Revised Statute 84-1407, a current copy of this act is posted in this meeting room. Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Bulkley.
Here.
Augustine Schulte. Barr.
Here.
Hemer.
Here.
Jablonski.
Here.
Creeshaw.
Here.
Lohr. Roth.
Here.
Schilling.
Here.
Mayor Bulkley, the roll has been called.
Thank you. Mr. Council President.
Our Father, thank you for the opportunity to serve our fellow citizens. Please give us your wisdom and guidance to make the proper decisions entrusted to this governmental body. May our conduct show respect, honor, and courtesy to each other, as well as to all our citizens. Amen.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. I welcome everyone to tonight's council meeting. We have a full house. As I had mentioned earlier, we are trying to maintain social distancing, so we'd ask that everybody honor where our chairs are, where we are within this room. When you are done on the agenda, quietly please leave and we'll move on. With that said, as we get to any point in the meeting where anyone would like to address the public, we'd ask you to please come forward, give your name, your address. We'd ask you to keep your comments to 5 minutes. We've got a pretty full crowd here. If you're hearing some of the same things and maybe just want to reiterate, maybe just say that's what you want to do so we don't have to hear the same thing over and over again. Let's just see how it's going. You're all welcome to speak at tonight's meeting. With that said, we'll move on to the consent agenda.
Item 4, consent agenda. The following items are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a City Council member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from consent status and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Item 4A, minutes of the July 6, 2020 City Council meeting. Item 4B, resolution number R20-70, authorizing payment of various improvement projects. Item 4C, Finance Department reports. Item 4D, payroll and bills on file. Mr. Mayor and Council, is there anything you'd like removed from consent status?
Mr. Mayor, I move that the items on the consent agenda being routine in nature be approved as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. That will bring us up to public hearings.
Item 7A, public hearing, application of Habitat for Humanity of Columbus for a final plat and development agreement of New Hope Second Subdivision, 41st Avenue between 13th and 14th Streets. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
Is there anyone here this evening to speak against this public hearing? Anyone here to speak for this public hearing?
Mr. Mayor and council members, my name is Richard Snyder, Snyder Engineering. I live at 126 Lakeshore Drive. With me tonight is Laurie Peters, Executive Director, and Mike Smith, I think is somewhere. Yeah, there he is, also a board member. And we are here tonight to try and help answer questions, if you have any, about this subdivision. For those of you that may not be familiar, it's 14 lots directly north of Reese Industries. So with that, I'll try and open it up to questions.
Any questions for Mr. Snyder?
Mr. Mayor, I move that the hearing be closed. Second.
We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Item 7A1, resolution number R20-71, approving the final plat and development agreement.
Mr. Mayor, I move that resolution number R20-71 be adopted. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve resolution R20-71. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Item 7B, public hearing, application of Habitat for Humanity of Columbus to rezone property located at Habitat Drive and 41st Avenue from R1 Single Family Residential District to R2 Urban Family Residential District. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
Is there anyone here to speak against this public hearing? Anyone here to speak for this public hearing?
Clark Grant, 1464 27th Avenue, here on behalf of the applicant. There was no opposition, and I think the Planning Commission unanimously voted to recommend this rezoning from R1 to R2. We're here for any questions if you have any.
Any questions for Mr. Grant?
Mr. Mayor, I move the hearing be closed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. All those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Item 7B1, ordinance number 20-12, approving rezoning.
Mr. Mayor, I recommend the rules be suspended and ordinance number 20-12 be read by number only.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to read ordinance number 20-12 by number only. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Ordinance number 20-12.
Mayor, I recommend ordinance number 20-12 be adopted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance number 20-12. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Item 7C, public hearing, application of Alsman Enterprises LLC to rezone property located at 53rd Avenue and Highway 81 from B2 General Commercial District to R1 Single Family Residential District and amend the future land use map of the comprehensive plan. The Planning Commission recommends denial.
Is there anyone here to speak against this public hearing?
Jacqueline Tessendorf, 2362 26th Avenue, and I represent a couple of the commercial businesses that are located near this proposed zoning, Mr. Osborne, Tresta Cradaville, and Neil Kuhlman. We ask that you do what the Planning and Zoning Commission do and deny the application for zoning. You as a city have spent a lot of time coming up with a plan of where the commercial and the residential and all of kind of the flow of the city of Columbus, what it should look like when you come into town, especially as this city has moved things towards the northwest with the beautiful new fire station that's put up there. Also, the commercial district should, I think, with that move of the fire district should continue to grow in that direction, so it makes sense to stick with the plan. I have not seen the list that Mr. Grant provided you, but I suspect that one of his arguments may be that in the past, the city has allowed some spot zoning where you've changed B2 and allowed some residential R1. Without looking at that, I would wonder if any of those areas were along the corridors of the city of Columbus. One of the things that I think the council has spent a lot of time in doing is planning the streetscaping that's going to occur in 2021 with the resurfacing of Highway 30. And just to allow some different spot zoning on those corridors, I would suggest that you consider that as not necessarily following your plans from the past and not a good approach to zoning. The businesses that are there are concerned that if they're, and when you drive out there and look at it, there are houses back behind it, but those are very well thought out. There's restrictive covenants. It's a beautiful area, and it makes sense to have those houses there and the commercial towards the highway. And they're concerned that those business commercial values may decline if there's residential around them and may run into other issues of running their business. FSA is there. I'm not here representing them, but I do know that farmers on a regular basis drive their trucks onto that street to stop and do business. That could be corn trucks, any type of heavy commercial. Doesn't make sense to have residential right there. So with all that being said, and I know there's a lot of people who want to talk, we just ask that you follow the recommendation of planning and zoning and deny this zoning request.
Thank you. Any questions for Mrs. Stesendorf? All right. Thank you, Jackie. Anyone else to speak against this public hearing?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Adam Osborne. I live at 5205 34th Street, and I work at Osborne Sales and Service. I'm here representing them here tonight. The business is at 3260 53rd Avenue, across the street from the parcel of land at hand tonight. My intentions for being here this evening are simple and straightforward. I'd like to see the land remain B2 commercial use, rather than change to a congested R1 development. Columbus initially thought that B2 was the best use of the land. I think it would be a shame to not carefully develop the large road frontage parcels in this town, missing out on a future commercial establishment or the opportunities that would entail with that. Furthermore, I feel that a development of this nature could diminish the future visions I have for my B2 lot across the street. Businesses typically can work off each other, generating business off of the foot traffic that the other ones create. Sorry, I'm reading off my phone here, and I apologize for not memorizing it, but this would be an unlikely scenario if the parcel across the street would develop as intended. Ultimately, I'd like to see the City of Columbus to support the current businesses and neighboring residential houses in the area by keeping this area commercial B2. That's all I have for you. Have any questions for me?
How long have you been out there, Mr. Osborne?
I'm sorry?
How long have you been out in that area?
So I lived there for 4 years, and then our business has been there for 3.
Okay, thank you. Did you ever look at that property, that piece of ground, as a potential?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak against this public hearing?
Hi, my name is Teresa Cradeville. I'm a CPA and I'm one of the owners of Coleman and Cradeville Accounting. I have been an owner for 13 years. We're currently located at 3285 53rd Avenue, so on the north side of these lots. I'm speaking in opposition to the City Council allowing the proposed zoning change from B2 to R1. In 2012, my partner Neil Coleman and I invested in the City of Columbus when we purchased that lot to put our accounting firm on. When we decided to invest in Columbus, we carefully looked at available lots, knowing that we wanted to own a business in commercial district that would be beneficial to us. One of the main pulls for us was many of our clients are farmers, and so we liked being across from FSA. We liked being across from USDA. We have common clients. We also have clients that bring their trucks and trailers as well in, and they park along the side of that road for both the other business and us. So I think that might be a hindrance with residential there as well. Our vision that other commercial, possibly ag-related businesses would also follow suit and come into that area. We invested in Columbus again recently by completing the addition to our building. Our tenant is Terry Schultz. He's in the farm and ranching business, and he had a last-minute appointment, so he couldn't be here tonight, but he also opposes the rezoning. We believe that if zoning was changed to residential, the value of our commercial building will probably diminish. We do not intend on selling the business, but resale of a commercial business in a residential lot would be something that I think about. So I'm opposed to the rezoning to this property of residential. I think that opening the door to this one that sits on the highway opens the door to the two beside it. I think there is some discussion of some potential purchase of those other two lands or other two lots, and I think that if we put residential there, it's going to get really hard to get another business to locate next to us. If they don't and it turns residential, we're going to be sitting on that corner surrounded almost on all sides by residential. And like I said, I don't plan on selling. I want to be in business here in Columbus for a long time. We were in David City before this, and we said, hey, Columbus is a good town. It's good for business. We have good relationships with a lot of the business owners and the bankers and the attorneys in town. We're trying to grow our business, and so we'd appreciate it if you would vote against the rezoning, keep it as intended use, which complies with the City of Columbus's future land use as well. That's all I have for you.
Any questions? Yes.
Ms. Cradaville, I believe you testified at the Planning Commission that in your expansion, you tried to put a basement under that
We
portion?
did. One of the things that they said is that they're going to try and put basements under these houses to make them, fit with some of the other houses in the area. We tried to put a basement in. We started. We were going to start digging. Had all the plans drawn up. They were going to start construction, and we said, well, maybe you better dig a test hole and see. And they did, and they said you're not going to get a basement there. There's water. I can't remember exactly how deep it was, but yeah, we could not do a basement there. So I think they're going to face some challenges if they try and do that in that area as well. So it really, commercial would be nice to have a basement, but it's not as nice as maybe a residential would want one as much as a business would. So I think that also helps leave that commercial there.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Sure. All right. Anyone else to speak against this public hearing?
I'm Brad Morton, and I live at 5108 33rd Street, and I live just a couple blocks from there. And I agree with the business owners, what they're saying there. And believe you me, I'd like to see some development there. Just being a person that lives right there, I can tell you there's a lot of noise from the highway going through there. The train, it shakes our windows sometimes. So I would like to see some building there, but I think it'd be tough for people having their residence so close to the highway. So,
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else to speak against this public hearing?
Lynn Anderson, 3375 53rd Avenue. I'm against changing it. I believe B2 is where it should be with the location of the highway. I think it's a much better place for businesses. And then to have houses and then businesses surrounded around each other, I just think it should stay B2.
Thank you. You lost your seat. How do you know that?
I snuck up on him. My name is Jamie Clay. I live at 5107 33rd Street. We are directly affected with this rezoning proposition because our house lies pretty much where these houses are going to be developed. I feel that it'd be better to leave it as commercial. I agree with Brad in the point that the trains are awful and the noise from the highway is awful. But I would agree with him also that we need to keep it commercial. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Anyone else want to speak? You're, again, certainly welcome.
Good evening. Kelly Schindler. I live at 3385 53rd Avenue. I agree with the business owners that it should stay zoned the way it is. I think Columbus has an opportunity to put their best foot forward and keep it the way it is, so when it does get developed, as you're coming into Columbus, it has the eye appeal. You're basically selling Columbus as you come in, and I think that'd be best for that area.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to speak, Mr. Short? We have the time, sir.
Thank you.
That's what we're here for tonight.
Okay, my name is Cliff Schroeder, 1611 22nd Street here in Columbus. I represent Westside Industrial Corporation. We're the original, we originally platted and developed that whole area. And when we did, we worked with the Planning Commission at that time to come up with a buffer zone or a transition zone for 2 rows of houses there for the so the people that in the development east of there could have R1 neighbors. By the same token, anybody that bought lots in the Westbrook edition for housing bought them knowing what the situation was. They had a right to say yes or no. They also knew that it would B2 zoning on the front. We had some restrictive covenants, like 1,100 square feet for the ground floor, a 2-car garage, or a 1-car garage with a paved parking spot, and all the people that bought the lots agreed to those covenants. So to rezone it at this time, I think would be sort of leaving those people in the lurch. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Schroeder? Thank you. Anyone else to speak against this public hearing?
I'm Neil Coleman, 3285 53rd Avenue, and I'm opposed. I think most of the reasons have been kind of stated, but my thought would be this, as far as I know, this is the first lot going west out of town that is not developed. So if you're going to keep expanding the town to the west, like you've done with the fire station, this is the first one you go to. It doesn't seem like it should be residential on there. That's my thoughts.
Okay. Anyone else? Corey?
My name's Corey Nelson. I live at 5216 33rd Street, which is directly north of the accounting offices. I have a great concern about the rezoning. Mr. Schaefer did an excellent job of bringing to the attention the ordinances that we had to build our houses by. I do not feel these houses meet those requirements, so that's a very large concern to me. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you. All right. No more against this public hearing? We'll then move on up. I'm sorry. And then we'll, please, come forward.
My name's Janice Schindler, and I live at 3385 53rd Avenue, and that is right to the north of where this is, you're wanting to do this. I really don't have anything else to add except to let you know that I just really oppose it. I think it needs to stay zoned for commercial, and I agree 100% with what everybody has said, so.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to those in favor of this public hearing.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Clark Grant, 1464 27th Avenue, And I'm here tonight on behalf of the applicants, Alsman Enterprises, and Katie and Matt Alsman are the owner of that company, and they are here this evening as well. Well, I certainly didn't anticipate stirring this much up when I took on this project, I can tell you that. I recall that when Matt Alsman called me up and said, hey, I have, he told me what the project was about, and he said it would involve going from a B2 and then allowing some single-family residential. And what I told him is, and it's true, that in my 30-plus years of doing zonings and rezonings in Columbus, I guess I've never encountered a situation where I had difficulty going from a less restrictive to a more restrictive zone. And of course, the R1 is substantially more restrictive than the B2 commercial. Ordinarily, what we have in zoning issues like this is just the opposite, which is you have some business zoning that's requested near some residential, and oh my goodness, that, you know, that is not compatible is what is said. And well, we believe it is compatible, and we believe that there's some fears and concerns of the neighbors that perhaps aren't warranted, and perhaps will be answered by the presentation of the Alsmans this evening. I'll let them discuss that. I did pass out to you a little handout, and before I get to that, I just want to say that there were 3 different ways we could have approached this rezoning request. We could have requested R1, which is what we did. We could have requested UC, which is urban commercial, which would allow, of course, the R1 residential. Or we could have requested a special use permit and not changed the commercial zoning at all. We chose to go just straight R1, and I don't think it makes any difference which of those 3 choices that we would have made. But it's very similar to a situation where a special use permit is requested. And just to point out that in a B2 zone, our code allows for single-family residential with a special use permit. So this isn't unprecedented. It's not spot zoning. It's zoning that's permitted under the code, whether it be the special use permit or just simply asking for R1. There really isn't any difference in the end. But what I did do, and I handed out a packet to everybody, the city maintains records of special use permits, and I went through and gleaned, the city has these records going back for about 20 years now. And so I went through those records and determined that there are at least 14 instances, some of them I've been involved in, where we requested permission to build a house or to have a R1 type residential house in a B2 zone. And you'll see I've listed 14 different properties where that's occurred in Columbus. And I excluded from that list, there's properties downtown where we've requested R1 and a B2 or a B1, and that's, of course, you guys are aware that we've got some apartments in the commercial buildings, on the 2nd floor of commercial buildings downtown. I did not include those because I didn't think they were similar to what we're requesting. But the first page of the handout is the 14 different special use permits that have been granted by the city. And then I didn't put them all on the map, but I did put the first 7 on the map. So the second page has 6 of those 7 noted as to the location. And then the third page is a map that has the 7th one. It's labeled number 2. I couldn't get that one on one map, and that one happens to be east of town. And as you can see, it's directly on Highway 30 frontage. The other, Ms. Tessendorf inquired about, well, are any of the other ones located near arterials? And you'll see that all of the special use permits that I've put on the map are near the arterials. If you look at numbers 5, 6, and 7, they're very close to Highway 81. They happen to be on the south side, but not very far from where we're requesting these houses to be built. So I guess my point is that the code, this is not spot zoning, and the code clearly provides for this type of zoning. As an example, if we would have asked for UC, the code describes that as a district intended to address the special need of mixed-use neighborhoods that combine residential areas with nearby or adjacent office and commercial development. Well, that's what we have going on here. We understand that. But those aren't necessarily incompatible type zonings. We don't believe that the R1 residential is incompatible with office use, nor is it incompatible with general commercial use. My office downtown is next to 2 residences. There's many offices and many commercial spaces that are adjacent to and have no buffer between those type of zonings. I did want to go back and talk a little bit about what happened at the Planning Commission meeting last Monday. There were 3 members absent, and not that that's especially noteworthy, but of the 5 members that were present, it was a really unique situation, because when it came time for them to vote on this matter, nobody wanted to come forward and even make a motion one way or the other. And the Planning Commission had to ask for direction from legal counsel as to what to do. And Mr. Schumacher indicated, well, you have to vote yes or no, so somebody has to make a motion one way or the other. So I don't know that the 5-0 vote was a real strong one, is my point. There were three members missing, and I don't think that the Planning Commission nor has the City Council ever been confronted with a situation where we're trying for more restrictive zoning and yet coming up with such resistance from the surrounding commercial property owners, and apparently even some of the residential owners, which is really an interesting statement. The project, and I'll let the Alsmans talk a little bit more about this, but what they are attempting to do is to save some houses that are going to be destroyed if we don't get them moved. And these are houses that are coming available because of the St. Bon's expansion. And I think everybody is desirous of not just throwing things away. We tend to be in a throwaway society. What the Alsmans are attempting to do is preserve that history of Columbus and move those houses. And again, I think some of the concern is the houses themselves, and I'll let the Alsmans address that in more detail. You know, this property, it's not like 53rd Avenue was just put there last year. It's been there for a number of years, and I wasn't able to pinpoint it exactly, but I'm guessing it's been there maybe 15 or upwards years, and it has sat idle. It hasn't generated a purchase for a commercial enterprise. And I believe that the lots have been for sale by the current owner. They've been on the market for 950 days. So what that tells us is there isn't any immediate commercial interest in this property. The Alsmans are going to do all of this work without any help from the city. You know, in this area, I recall that the Dial Company came in a number of years ago and asked for tax increment financing to do a shopping center that ultimately failed. But the point being is that the Alsmans are not requesting any type of help from city, state, or federal government. This is all on their dime, and they are trying to do something for the good of Columbus. And that good is that Columbus simply doesn't have affordable housing right now. You can't rent a place, you can't buy a place. In Columbus, we have a substantial shortage, and it's easy to figure that out when you see what the prices, how the prices have risen for houses in this size range. It's just gone up astronomically, and I've seen it as an attorney doing work for clients. Houses of this size have gone up in price, and Columbus simply doesn't. It's because we don't have enough supply. It's a supply and demand. It's that simple. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Alsman's, and they're going to talk more specifically about the houses and what the project is about.
Mr. Grant, before you step back, of these houses that you've listed here, how many of them were moved in?
I don't believe that any of them were, just by looking at them. I'm not sure of
So
that.
they were there previous to anything, so it's not apples to apples comparison to what you're trying to say here.
Well, what the
But the zoning, you're talking about the zoning, but in theory, that house was there, not moved in from somewhere else, didn't change it, the looks of it at all. It was there, it had a garage, had basement, had everything in that place at that time.
I believe that's-
Is that
I
a
believe
fair
it's been
statement?
built.
Is that a
It's
fair
been built
statement?
there.
I believe that's an accurate statement, right?
Just so
So
the
that
public
is-
understands what you're trying to
Right, and
compare here.
we're not pretending that it's anything, that those houses are anything different than they are, but they were houses that otherwise didn't comport with the zoning, and I guess the point of showing you that is that Columbus there's all kinds of examples of single-family houses within a B2 zone. This isn't anything new, and like I said, if we had 3 different options, we chose the most direct in going for R1. But this is probably, the community that we're looking at has a lot of residential, and there's residential within 300 feet of the property that we're talking about. So to say that residential is incompatible with the businesses there, I think is not really a good argument. I understand that we're right on the highway, but I don't necessarily think that means that rules out the R1 that we're seeking. And again, it's a growth problem, it's a supply-demand problem for the city. It's, these houses are going to be dust if we can't get this project done. Thank you.
One more question. You mentioned that there was lack of members at the Planning Commission. We're short 2 members here. Is that going to be an issue for you?
It's not I was just trying to bring you up to speed on
Yeah,
what
we
occurred at
understand.
that meeting.
We-
No, it's not.
But I mean to the public.
There was
To
a
the
quorum.
If the
Yeah.
public is listening and hearing that you thought that might have been a problem because there were short members at that commission, that the decision could have been different.
I don't consider it a problem. What I'm saying is that it was not a vote of all 8 members of the Planning Commission.
But won't be in all 8 tonight, so.
Correct.
Okay, just want to get that in the public.
Yes. Any other questions? Thanks for your time.
We will probably end up taking up more than 5 minutes, so I pre-apologize for that. I am Katie Alsman. This is my husband, Matt Alsman. We reside here in Columbus at 663 Lewis Place. There's actually a lot of addresses I could give you. I could give you any of the houses that we currently own, the businesses that we currently own, as well as the houses that we own in Shelby, Nebraska. But I won't. I will just give you my current home address, and then I will have my husband discuss a little bit here about what you've heard in opposition and what our plan is to provide you the information to show you that what we're doing will better our community.
Let me just, we do want your legal address.
663
Okay.
Lewis Place.
And as far as 5 minutes, it's not a golden rule, but it is important that you keep your presentation moving.
We will.
Okay?
We will.
Thank you.
Absolutely, and we'd like to thank you guys for hearing us out here today. That's a heck of a crowd to follow at this point. Well, like she said, my name's Matt Alsman, and this is my wife Katie, and we are local business owners as well. I own and operate Eternal Tattoo, and we also operate Alsman Enterprises, which is our real estate acquisitions company, and she is a real full-time real estate agent at RE/MAX here in town, as well as operating KLB Dream Homes. We also have a vested interest in the community, just as much as anyone else. I thought maybe knowing coming in here that it was going to be a very uphill battle after the Planning Commission, that maybe we would just tell you the story of how we got here in the first place, for just real quickly. And so a couple members of the steering committee at the St. Bon's church, who was handling their renovation and their expansion, came to us and they said, hey, we're looking for somebody to take on a project, and our parking lot is going to go through these 5 houses, and our retention pond's going to take them out. And we were going to tear them down, but we were hoping to find somebody just crazy enough to try and save them for the community. And as we moved through and looked at the houses and looked around at what kind of inventory in the $145,000 to $170,000 range this town had, we discovered there's none, and these houses are savable. It's not easy because they aren't expensive houses, and they're not going to make a bunch of money or make anybody rich to move them, but it's doable if you can figure it out. And so we kind of agreed to take on the project. And we didn't know anything about moving houses, and we didn't know anything about zoning, and we just started making all the phone calls we could make. And we looked into it, and we called people at city levels, and we called people, house movers and zoning lawyers and whoever we could to try and figure it out. So to start out with, we looked at single lots that were kind of placed randomly around town, and we thought, well, maybe we can do this. And that just ended up not being economical to take one house that's small like that, smaller, and move it, and then put new siding and new roofs and new windows and new doors and revamp these houses so they're move-in ready for a family. Just wasn't economical to take one set of power lines and move it and do all the things that goes with moving a house. So we started looking, well, where can we put more than one house? And ultimately, to make a long story short, we started looking at this property. We started looking at the property we're talking about, and it kind of started checking boxes. So, you know, the infrastructure's there. The plumbing's already there, the water's already there, the electricity's already there. There's nothing to move, nothing to pick up. So we called foundation companies because we were worried about what Miss Cradville was talking about. What if we can't put a basement in? And I had to defer to an expert on that. They didn't seem to think that there was going to be much of a problem with putting basements into houses, being that we can build up dirt should it be an issue. So we started moving forward and figured out that, well, that exponentially makes it more economical. We can take and move 2 houses at a time with the same route, with the same trees that have to be cut, with the same power lines that have to be moved, and frontier and all the things that you got to go through. And that's why we ultimately looked at this lot. So we thought, okay, well, how do you tackle the glaring problem where it's B2? So we started looking into it, contacted a lawyer. We're told that, you know, like what he said, we've never really had a problem bringing things to residential. So we looked a little further into it, and the lot had been for sale for 900 odd days when we purchased it. It's never been developed in all 34 years that I've lived here. And honestly, the other side of Westbrook hasn't been developed either. Like, everything out there has sat empty for a long time. So from our perspective, okay, nobody's doing anything with this. There's houses all over the place. There's R1 within 300 feet, 400 feet. Nobody's doing anything on this lot. Nobody has done anything on this lot. And in our hubris, we kind of assumed that maybe nobody would really have much of an issue and would be more happy to collect property tax from 4 homes that are sitting on this lot and actually have something there and show that we are progressing. Because for us, commercial businesses, we're going up by Menards, and they're going up on the bypass, and they're going up all on that side of town. And whereas some things are starting to kind of pop that way, not that far out, not from our perspective. So where we were at on it, well, okay, with all these things considered, the state of the economy, COVID-19, people aren't building brick and mortar businesses anymore to sell things from. Foot traffic businesses are businesses like mine, and I wouldn't put it out there. My business personally, and I realize there's not a lot of people here that patronage it, but creates a lot of foot traffic. I bring in foot traffic from all the surrounding communities. I bring in foot traffic from other states, which I'd be happy to name off, but we don't have that kind of time.
We do have a gentleman here, though, to speak on that.
I have a gentleman here that moved here to work in my business from Chicago, Illinois. Peoria, sorry. We bring business to this town. So for me, from my perspective as that kind of business owner, I don't see anybody with any kind of foot traffic putting themselves out there. You're not going to have that. I wouldn't think. Now, I'm making assumptions just like everybody else in the room, but that's my opinion on the matter as a business owner in this town. So we thought we'd take a run at it. And, you know, we didn't expect the pushback that we got from the local people, and that's on us. It is our first time. This is my first city council meeting speaking. You know, we didn't see it coming as much, and we probably should have. We should have talked to more people, and that's on us. But I understand their concerns. I understand that you want foot traffic there, and I understand that you might have some parking issues. I understand that you're worried that the houses we set down won't look good enough to keep up with the other houses, and I understand that you had a different vision for that property, but that property's been for sale for 30 years, 40 years. I don't have any idea. I'm not sure who might. And I understand that when you visualize something, that you want it to turn out that way, but it doesn't always work out like that. So I guess my question here today is what if nobody does build over there? What if nothing happens and we don't do it either? These houses turn to dust, because there's a time constraint. The church is only going to wait so long, and this is kind of a one-shot deal. Those houses are gone after that. And I'm actually proud that we've brought the topic of a lack of affordable housing in Columbus to such a forefront here in this council today, and probably for the foreseeable future. My wife and I are proud of that, and that's the reason we didn't withdraw when so much opposition showed up. We thought, okay, well, at worst, we bring this issue front and center. At best, we leave some houses in this town for some nice families that they could buy that are move-in ready and nice-looking houses. They aren't going to be set down and then left as they are. They're obviously going to be flipped from head to toe. So I understand the concerns. We're here to operate a different perspective. We brought some pictures of some flips we've had. If anybody is interested in that, we can hook them up to the TV and play a little slideshow show for you if you'd like. One other thing that was an opposing argument that we could attach to is that that's not what you want to see upon entering town. Whereas I get that argument, I think seeing that people live in this town isn't necessarily a bad thing to see on the way into town. On top of that, we agreed to build a bypass that happens before that point in the town.
It's not a bypass. It's a parkway.
Oh, I'm
And
sorry.
it was not built to take people around. It was built for the city to grow into over the years. We actually made the mistake of letting people get away with calling it a bypass from the beginning. Kind of got that nickname.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, as a citizen of this, of this city, and someone who's lived here for most of his life, you definitely had a marketing problem there.
Totally understand.
Because I don't know anybody that calls it a parkway. But we have some pictures if you'd like to see them. There's some people that are actually for building the houses in the other room, should they say a few words. And honestly, if you look at my social media right now, you can find 40 to 60 comments, different posts of people that are very supportive of this, but it's harder to get people to come out in support of something, and it's real easy to get people to come out with negativity. So with that, I'll let my wife speak a little bit on affordable housing
Do you wanna hook that
in
up?
Columbus, and I'll try and figure this out.
As my husband stated at the beginning, I do work full-time for Remax Total Realty here in Columbus. We also, as you heard, do a bunch of our own real estate stuff. So real estate really does consume my entire life. From day that I wake up till I go to bed, all I'm doing is real estate. I would like you to understand that there are, in fact, 11 properties, and I can ramble off the addresses if you would like. Those 11 properties are all within the same feet of our main highway that Matt and I are looking to put houses down on. That means that there are 11 families that already deal with the noise. Aside from that, the complaint about trains. Anybody that lives along 12th here in town also has train noise. We are Columbus. There is a train track that goes through the center of us, and it's used. We have trains all the time. Your businesses right over here downtown probably hear trains and have issues with that. You decide where you want to live, and you deal with what is around you when you decide to buy the property that you're going to buy. My husband and I do not pick up houses or buy houses and then leave them the way that they are, as you can see. I am sure a lot of people in this room have watched HGTV. You've seen Flip or Flop. You've seen Flip This House. You've seen all of those shows. You can take a 1900s built house and you can make it look like a beautiful house, modern concept, better outside siding. We've gone from wood to vinyl. You can put new roofs on things, replace windows. You can change the sides of windows. You can add bay windows. You can add bedrooms. You can blow out this boxy look that houses had back in the day and make them giant open concept houses, which is exactly what my husband and I do, which is what you are seeing on this screen. If you remember, our Eternal Tattoo building was less than what it is now when we bought it. It sat empty for 10 years. We added a whole another addition to that building, as well as completely flipped the inside of that building and the apartment. When you're talking about spot zoning, our tattoo shop is one of those on that list. The upstairs is an apartment. Those are those pictures you're looking at. I'm sorry, that's our duplex. But the upstairs is an apartment, and we did the same thing. We blew out some walls, we made it more open, and now it is a beautiful studio apartment. My husband and I understand where people are at with the concern of their property value. However, not everywhere that you put new houses, someone can afford a $270,000 house or a $320,000 house. I work with Granville, I work with Foreman. They do beautiful homes, but not everybody is purchasing that. A single mom with 2 kids cannot purchase that. A dad that just got divorced cannot purchase that. We are eliminating the option of 4 families to have the pride of owning their own home simply because we don't want to develop some land that's been sitting there empty for 40 years. And I don't see a valid reason as to why we can't do that.
I think with that, thank
If
you
you
for
have
your
any
time.
questions.
Any questions,
Any
Brett?
questions?
No questions, but I would comment that I would certainly admire your ambition and your drive.
I love this city. I've lived here my whole life. My husband can tell you, right when I met my husband, I've always been all for real estate. Sorry, not Remax. My real estate.
Shameless plug.
My dad had a rental property for a very long time that actually was my grandpa's house after my grandpa passed away. And I had always and forever tried to get him to do the updates and to make the changes. I care about our community. I care about people being able to purchase a home. And a little bit of a backstory, I was a single mom for a long time before I married my husband. We lived in apartments. We had landlords. My kids couldn't paint their rooms. We couldn't put up a pool. There were things that you cannot do to love the house that you live in and to provide your kids a happy, healthy, stable home if you're paying rent every month. If you don't know from month to month if you're going to kicked out because the landlord might sell it or you might have made your neighbor down the hallway upset. You can't control those factors when you're paying someone else to live in something you don't own. And this is our option, and this is our chance to save 4 houses that can really provide a nice space for families. And Westbrooks is right there, so foot traffic, the houses we're putting down are gonna give foot traffic to at least one of those businesses. And no disrespect, I believe that plumbing and accountant are very important businesses. However, you're not foot trafficking a plumber and you're not foot trafficking an accountant office. You're calling around, you're getting information from friends and family, and then you're deciding who you want as a plumber, and then you're deciding who you want as an accountant. If a family, we have 3 boys, I will for sure give my kids $20 and ship them over to Westbrook Lanes. I've now provided foot traffic for at least one of those businesses over there. And that is my argument for that. Any other questions?
I have like to make some comment.
Sure.
I have to apologize to you for being rather short this afternoon when you called me.
It's all right.
I just got off the phone with an insurance company and I hadn't come down yet. So
I get that.
They're rough.
Anyway, I've got several reasons why I said I would vote against it. Number one, and that is, I want to keep it commercial. This commercial lot is not going to entice foot traffic. It's going to be something that's other than that. It's going to be something that's going to be built, that maybe manufacturing or that kind of thing. That's it's too far out. The other thing is, I don't want to take away from any commercial area away from the west side. Everything seems to be pushing east. I'd like to have a little bit of something on the west side to keep, if somebody wants something, we can't get out in east, they can come over to the west side.
Can I touch on that really quick, sir? Where we're looking at putting the houses, I understand what you're saying, I very much do, the commercial aspect. But if you look on the other side of that highway, you will see your commercial spaces. You will see Mueller and Shep.
I understand
On the
totally.
side that we're talking, we already have R1, we have apartments, we have things on that side that are in line with what we're attempting to do.
I gotta continue, all right? I'm the one on the north of this lot. I was in the process of developing senior housing. I was gonna put in 20 lots. And I sat down with Mr. Schroeder and we discussed what the situation is as far as It's B2 also.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't, we discussed what we were gonna try and do. And I see right now that if I would have continued to do this, I would have had these people out here would have been discussing that with me. So that's another reason. Another reason with the lots. I looked at those lots to add on to mine. And I could put four houses or 8 houses on there. I mean, you got 191 feet. Man, that's 20 yards short of an 8-man football field.
Imagine the space for a kid to run, though.
Yeah,
your
but it's
backyard,
not,
it's-
you know, I look at it as if I'm gonna see one small house of 71 feet wide, and then we got a big, long lot, you know, to me, I can't visualize that. I was looking at it where I could put 8 houses on it with a street in the middle of it, and it would work. And so I was a little disappointed that you didn't look beyond that and say, hey, you know, we can put these houses back here, and then we can add more, if you want to do that. And that's the other side of it. You know.
That honestly falls in our time constraint. So in order to save these 4 houses, we must get them moved. St. Bon's is going to move forward with their project, whether we get an approval or not. Like my husband stated, the infrastructure, the road, all of that's already there for this lot. We can go around on the parkway, sir. We can go around on that and come back in, and then we've eliminated the, what would that be, like, the community, I guess. We've now brought it out and around town. We're not gonna have to cut down people's trees through blocks and through neighborhoods. We're not gonna necessarily, hopefully, be eliminated electricity or things like that for people right down the center of town. To save these houses in the time frame that we have, this is the best area that we can find to do that.
We looked into to splitting it into 8 lots. We did. The church's time constraint kind of pushed us in a direction where we couldn't really apply for a major subdivision because we didn't have the time. It takes more time to make a major subdivision, under my understanding. So we couldn't quite get that amount of time out of the church in order to move those houses in and ultimately save them. So that was why we actually wanted to leave it part commercial and part residential. Right there was our original plan, but we couldn't acquire the time we needed to do it.
Okay.
I got one. I understand the church is giving you an option to move those properties off onto their property for 60 days. Are you taking advantage of that?
We will try finding other properties to put these houses on, and on top of the expense of lifting them without actually knowing where we would put them. Like Clark Grant just said, we're funding this entirely by ourselves and with loan proceeds. So to take a $45,000 hit if we don't find somewhere that these houses are to go, it just isn't. We don't have those kinds of pockets.
It cuts into our remodel budget to make the houses beautiful and attractive. And then it also causes the increase in what we would be able to put them back into the community for, which is what we're trying to eliminate with this property, which again is why that space would work so well. Any other questions? We appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak for this public hearing?
Well, before we get into the 4s, I just kind of have a maybe neutral idea. My name is Natasha Gonzalez. My address is 2705 21st Street. Thank you for the opportunity to share my perspective in regards to this project. I also want to thank the Alsmans and the Osborns for both reaching out to me and helping me develop a better understanding of what's being achieved here. We know that the Alsmans are interested in changing the plot, and I fully support their desire to create more affordable housing. But I did not come here today to voice my concerns in opposition to any one side. I would like to take this opportunity to share what I feel to be the pros and cons of this rezoning project, excuse me. For one, I am concerned that this might not be the right location for such a project. My main reason being is that it's not accessible for low-income families. The library is not within walking distance, Pawnee Park is not within walking distance, the grocery store, etc. When considering low-income families, we need to consider a lack of resources. And also, maybe public transportation is something that we need to be talking about more in the future. I'm also concerned with these homes being placed so close to the highway in an area where there's a lot of commercial traffic going on. And lastly, I am unsure if this lot is large enough to fit 4 homes and still have ample space for a good-sized yard, which to me is something essential for families with children. The pros, while there is a lot to consider in regards to keeping the lot as is, there are still some major benefits if the council does decide in favor of rezoning. The Alsmans purchased these 4 homes, they purchased these 4 homes, as they said, and they're kind of on a time crunch. If they don't get them moved, they're going to be torn down, like we've stated many times. In our pressing time today, I find that to be an extreme waste of the Earth's resources. And something that the city has done a great job of so far is saving houses, taking them from the viaduct space and moving them somewhere else. And I definitely applaud that. It's also my understanding that in order to move these 4 homes to 4 separate locations, it would pose a substantially higher cost than if the homes were being moved to a single location. So saving money on this project would not only benefit the Alsmans, but it would benefit our community as a whole. Even though it's just 4 houses, that's 4 families that could have a lasting home. I hope that the council takes into consideration both the pros and cons which are being presented to you today. With that being said, I am hoping to propose a solution that may not work for this project in particular, but maybe in the future. And it could have a major impact on our community, something that works for everyone that could be a potentially even greater opportunity towards affordable housing. As I am running for city council and as a council hopeful, I would like to propose the formation of a planning committee, which I have picked up a topic of agenda form for. After reading the Different Perspectives article, my first thought was that I would love to see these 2 groups work together. I understand that anytime you're converting a commercial district to a residential district, infrastructure costs are high, and in the end, a project might have started as something that we can turn this into an affordable house, but in the end, it might be way too expensive and you can't do that anymore. What we need to do is inspire companies to participate in a housing project. We need to gather a group of like-minded contractors in our area, companies who may be willing to offer discounts or donate their resources and skills in order to keep these properties affordable. The possibilities for this project are endless. We even have the option to power these homes with renewable energy, making them even more affordable yet. As I stated previously, I would like to propose the formation of this committee, or perhaps even just a community forum to start, to gain some different perspectives, get an idea of what contractors would be willing to help, and also invite low-income families.
Natasha, I don't want to, you've got some great ideas, but we've got to stay,
I'm almost done.
we've got to stay focused. We've got to stay on task, and the item in front of us is the rezoning of this particular property, not your vision of where we should, and you've got an idea, bring it forward to us, and we'll move forward. We've got to keep this going, please.
I am almost done. I just wanted to encourage these 2 parties to work together on this
Absolutely.
project rather than be against
And
each
I think they have tried to work together. Part of it is the timing factor. They're getting into a constraint with timing because of St. Bon's and where they've got to go with what's going on. So, there's a good possibility we all could have said we should have been doing this back in February or January or whatever.
Definitely.
But guess what? We weren't. So we are where we are today. So,
Well, as I stated, I did grab this here.
and that would be
And
great.
If you don't mind, I'll just go ahead and leave my
Okay.
talking points with you.
Thank you.
And thank you.
All right. Anyone else here to speak? Please come forward.
Colleen Bray, 166 Lakeshore Drive here in Columbus. I'll try not to repeat what anybody else says, but I do have a couple of rebuttals. Been in real estate for 40-some years here in Columbus. I have never heard a commercial owner say, it will hinder my business to put residences in there. It's usually the other way around. So that doesn't stand up very well. Putting residences in among those businesses will not hurt the business's values whatsoever. Not the Alsman's first rodeo. They know how to make a house look decent. As far as basements, the vast majority of houses out there have basements. As far as trucks coming in there and parking, if that does develop commercially, do you think they're going to want the trucks parking in front of their commercial or their industrial places? I mean, there's a you've got to think logically about all of these things. And I think anybody in this town that's making under 20 bucks an hour would relish the thought of being able to have a house with a brand new basement that they know is going to stand for another 100 years. And that's all I have to say. I'm for the Alsmans and their project. Yes.
Mrs. I'm just curious why you didn't attend the planning commission meeting.
Because I didn't know, I thought it was online again. The only thing I was able to do was vote with an abstract, you know, because abstain because I've had an interest in it, because I work with Katie now.
Interesting.
And I don't know why the other people didn't attend.
It's unfortunate because,
I know, because I would have,
Yeah.
of course, I couldn't have been able to vote.
No, but I think,
Doesn't
I
matter,
think
but
that
you
the
would have
board,
an
the
opinion.
zoning, the board would have appreciated hearing your comments because because of your background.
that's unfortunate.
Yep.
I know. But I hate the fact that I was not there, that Kim was not there, who both support this project. Both of us been in real estate for years.
Never know that.
I hate the fact that we're not here. Neither one of us were there. And I would hate the fact that you guys would deny it because somebody didn't have the guts to stand up and say, let's go forward with this project on the planning commission. They didn't know what to do. So they took the easy way out. And I take fault. You can blame me for part of that. Thank you, guys.
Yes, sir.
Alan Brinkler, 2009 12th Street. So my wife and I moved our 3 kids out here just about 3 years ago. Like I just said, 12th Street is just on the other side of the tracks here. The noise and the traffic is a moot point. I have no fence, and the railroad track is right there. Like, I'm not so worried about the noise. But we came here with $400 in our pockets, and thanks to Matt giving me the job here, that's not an issue anymore. But the issue is I cannot buy a home. Every home that I've looked at that can fit my 3 kids is $100,000, but needs $75,000 worth of work to it. Who's going to give me that? Nobody. Let alone, they've never even tried to give me the loan in the first place. So that is really the only downfall. I love this city. Nebraska and Columbus alone have gone above and beyond my expectations moving here from Chicago. Thinking about going back there makes me physically sick. But when I come home, I feel home. It's my only complaint. I can't find a house. A 4-bedroom, 1-bedroom house today that I saw on Realtor.com was $265,000. First-time homeowner's not going to get that. You know, that is my only thing, guys. Like, I'm not begging for help, but I'm asking. That's about it. So, thank you so much, guys.
Yes, sir.
Michael Verka, 3117 18th Street here in Columbus, Nebraska. I've been running my business out of this town. Moved here in '97. Been laying floors since then. So they keep talking about low income, whatever. You know, it's just to the point where you're going to tear down houses. You're not going to reuse them. With the economy the way it is, you're better off reusing the houses. They'll make them look really nice, and you're not going to be able to touch another house with that kind of square footage or that yard for that price. Let's not talk about low income. Let's talk about people that'll actually be able to go out to eat, you know, after they buy a house in this town. There's a shortage of houses. I get into a lot of these houses, and I know that a lot of these houses people are buying, they really can't afford them. So to find 4 affordable houses is great for the city, and with them pushing all the money through the city is better for us too. Plus, the lots have been sitting vacant for how long, so you guys are losing money actually. And they all hire locally. They actually hire me to do a lot of the work as well. So it's actually better for the economy. You know, everybody says spend your money in town, spend your money in town. There's a lot of people that doesn't. They do. And I appreciate all the business, and they get people that come from all over for their business. If you're on a commercial and a residential like that, it doesn't matter because we're in a technology phase right now. Nobody's doing the foot walk traffic here and there. If I want a plumber, I'm gonna go online and look it up. I'm gonna see who's the best in town. I'm gonna see what the ratings are. I'm not gonna go to a plumbing shop just to talk to somebody. I will call them up. Same with an accountant in that. It's all technology now, you know. I'm a little bit older, I'm 39 now. I'm not the best with technology, but I still look it all up on my phone or on the computer. And that's just kind of the way everything's been going. But I am for them getting the houses to be placed there and families being able to afford to live, basically. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Derek Klosner. I reside at 160 East Washington, Shelby, Nebraska. I am in one of the properties the Alsmans have purchased and revamped up there. I'm also the owner of KSR Klosner Siding and Reconstruction. They have increased the property value by at least five figures of every house they've ever touched. Every family that's gone into them has been low income like myself. I also work out at Archer Daniel Midlands. I'm a cross-qualified operator, and I still can't find an approval for a loan to buy a home in this town, so that's why I moved to Shelby. Everything up here is 250 plus. I have 4 children and a wife. There's nothing that I'm going to be able to afford in Columbus. There's been more than enough time to take this land that has sat vacant and it's done nothing. There's been more than enough time to act on it. We keep hearing about visions and what we want for the property and what we want for this zoning, but nothing has been done. We're sitting on our hands. So now we've got people moving 4 houses to supply homes to 4 families, and all we're being met in opposition with was noise complaint and foot trafficking. I am a carpenter. Nobody comes to my house knocking on my door foot trafficking my services. They seek me online, just like I seek a plumber online or my accountant. I didn't foot traffic to find my accountant. I did it online. Same thing with my electrician. Same thing with my mechanic. We live in a technology-based society now. You're not going to see those people walking in and out to mom and pop plumbers and things like that. Foot traffic is a moot point. Noise is a moot point. There's been more than enough time to act on the property. Let them do it. Everyone else has had their chance, including the business owners that complain about not wanting more residential in the area, but they didn't buy the property themselves either. Why? That's my statement. Any questions for me? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Samantha Higgins. I live at 130 3rd Avenue in Shelby, one of the houses that you saw on the slideshow. Katie is my sister, Matt is my brother-in-law. We lived here in town, and actually in the rental that my sister talked about that belonged to our parents, that was our grandfather's home. I lived there for 5 years because I couldn't afford to buy a house for the size of my family. At that time, I had 1 child. I have 2 stepchildren. I now have a 20-month-old daughter. When we found out we were expecting her, we knew we were quickly outgrowing the size of the house that we had. My sister approached me. They had an opportunity to buy this house in Shelby. I'm born and raised here. This is my hometown, but there was no way I was going to be able to find a house big enough for my family of 6 in my income. Both me and my husband work full-time, and we still wouldn't be able to afford it. My sister took me up to this house in Shelby, and the first time I walked into that house, I'll be honest with you, I was like, there's no way on God's green earth is this house going to look like a decent home by the time we're done with it. And over the course of a very long, stressful 10 months, they turned it into a gorgeous home that both me and my husband and my son are proud and so excited to have as our home. Me and my husband still both work here full-time in town, and it is a shame that we had to move outside of town to find a house in our range that we could afford. They do an amazing job. They have completely gutted my house. They built 2 additional bedrooms. They built a bathroom. When they acquired the home, it was a 1-bedroom, it was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. They made 2 bedrooms in the basement. They created a full bathroom for us, for our needs, with a full shower tub. They did everything that they could have thought of that would have made our life and our home ownership better and easier. I may be biased because she is my sister, but what they're trying to do for this community and what they're trying to accomplish is something remarkable. This town has always had a housing issue, affordable housing issue. There's gorgeous home for sales all over the place, but for a small family, for a new family, for a single family, they're unattainable. What they're trying to do would make that home ownership dream a reality for at least 4 families.
Thank you. All right, I would entertain a motion to close the hearing.
Mr. Mayor, I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay.
Go to sleep.
Who seconded
Run.
Motion passes.
Item 7C1, ordinance number 20-13, approving the rezoning. Or
Mr. Mayor, I move that the rules be suspended and ordinance number 20-13 be read by number only.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to read ordinance number 20-13 by number only. Or 2-12 by number only.
13.
1-3.
Ordinance number 20-13.
Mr. Mayor, I move that ordinance number 2-13 be denied.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to deny ordinance number 20-13. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion denied. That would bring us up to 7D.
Item 7D, public hearing, application of Scribbs House Moving on behalf of Alsman Enterprises LLC to move a house from 1604 16th Street to 3185 53rd Avenue. The Planning Commission recommends approval contingent upon the previous rezoning application.
I would ask council if we could take, I'm sorry?
I was just gonna say, the next ones are all the moving of the houses, and without the rezone, it's completely unnecessary. I don't wanna waste anybody's time, so.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Council, can we do this as one, or do we have?
That's the recommended motion,
Okay.
that you can do them all together.
Take a motion to do 7D,
E, F,
F.
G.
Need a motion to take item 7D, 7E, 7F, and 7G as one and remove, or just remove from the agenda. I need that motion.
I move we do that.
Yes.
We have a motion and a second.
Motion.
Motion by Schilling, second by Barr, to remove item 7D, 7E, 7F, and 7G. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Item 10, reports of council committees. Item 10A, Public Property Safety and Works Committee of July 13th, 2020. Item 10A1 is the minutes of the June 8th, 2020 Traffic Control Device Committee. The Public Property Safety and Works Committee recommends to the Mayor and City Council that the minutes of the June 8th, 2020 Traffic Control Device Committee be approved.
Mr. Mayor, move this report be adopted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Item 10A2, installation and maintenance policy for street sign standards. The Public Property Safety and Works Committee recommends to the Mayor and City Council that the street sign standard installation and maintenance policy be adopted.
Mayor, move this report be adopted.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adopt this committee report. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Item 10A3, update to the snow emergency route. The Public Property Safety and Works Committee recommends the updates to the snow emergency route be approved.
Mr. Mayor, I move the report be adopted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this committee report. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Item 10B, Public Finance, Judiciary, and Personnel Committee of July 14th, 2020. Item 10B1, increase telephone occupation tax from 3% to 5%. The Public Finance, Judiciary, and Personnel Committee recommend to the Mayor and City Council that the telephone occupation tax be increased from 3% to 5%.
Mr. Mayor, move for the adoption of this report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this committee report. Any discussion?
This will come back to the council
Okay,
for
thank you.
consideration, and it's, do you want me to give a little information about
if
it
you'd like
quickly?
to, and maybe-
So we've been working on the small wireless facilities ordinance for quite some time, over a year, attorneys and community development and I. And basically the small cell is for 5G and beyond, and the companies that provide that service had pushed through a bill through the legislature, which basically stripped the city of any regulatory authority in the right-of-way as it relates to small cell technology implementation, and also included in that legislation that we cannot charge them even a permit application fee in order to process the handling of all the applications. So the only way the city's going to cover our cost for all these additional devices in our right-of-way is if we increase the telephone tax. And it is going to cost us more to manage the whole system.
Thank you for the explanation. We have a motion and a second to adopt this committee report. All those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Item 10B2, creation of Senior Office Associate 2 position and update to the pay plan. The Public Finance, Judiciary, and Personnel Committee recommends to the Mayor and City Council that the position of Senior Office Associate 2 be created and the pay plan be updated.
Mr. Mayor, move for the adoption of this report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this committee report.
Just a
Any
public
discussion?
clarification, we are combining 2 retirement positions for this
Correct.
position.
This
just
is
so-
actually a savings
Yeah, we're not-
as opposed
yeah.
to, right, we had 2 retirements, 2 positions are currently vacated in City Hall. We're proposing creating this position, combining those 2 positions into one, increasing our efficiency by purchasing an online permit and application software. So this actually saves the city of Columbus money.
Thank you.
Mhm.
That's just a great answer for the coffee drinkers. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Item 10B3, increase to the health insurance premiums. The Public Finance, Judiciary, and Personnel Committee recommends to the Mayor and City Council that the renewal option from Companion Life ILSI be accepted and the deductible be increased from $60,000 to $75,000.
Mayor, move this report be adopted.
Second.
Motion and a second to adopt this committee report. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Brings us up to new business.
Item 13A, application of Meadow Ridge Properties LLC for preliminary plat of Meadow Ridge 8th Edition south and west of the intersection of 42nd Street and 54th Avenue. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
Mr. Mayor, I move the preliminary plat of Meadow Ridge 8th Edition be approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve preliminary plat for Meadow Ridge 8th Edition. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. for staying, John.
Motion passed. Item 13B, quotes for approximately 330 tons of agrolime from Bryan Rock Products Incorporated in the amount of $17.90 per ton, and from Crouch Excavation Company in the amount of $42.90 per ton to haul to the Pawnee Park baseball field.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the quotation from Bryan Rock Products Inc. for agrolime and from Coke Excavating for hauling agrolime be accepted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt the quotes from Bryant Rock Products and Cook Excavating. Any discussion?
Question,
Yes, sir.
is this an annual?
No.
No.
No, we haven't did this at Pawnee Park for quite a while, so it's not an
For
annual
quite a
thing.
while.
We're in need.
Oh, I'm guessing 10, 15 years since we did agrolime at Pawnee
We're
Park.
almost out of, I mean, there's hardly any left.
So yeah, the last time we did it for Gerard Park.
I still have scars on my hips from sliding into that agrolime.
No, it's different now.
Oh, it is?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, altogether
Don't
different
bleed
now.
as much?
It's not, yeah.
You'll,
Oh, hey.
you'll still
I've
have
been
scars. Yeah, you'll still have scars.
Thanks.
Yeah, you don't,
Does the Baseball Association pay part of this?
No,
No.
this is something
This
that
is
they
all on the city?
requested. It's all good. The Mariners, like they might want to add on for the facility at the Armory, and if we help them, so while they're hauling, they can still be part of what we're doing.
thank you, Doug.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by aye, those opposed nay. Motion passes.
Item 13C, quote from Shelby Lumber Company Incorporated in the amount of $15,645 for shelter roof replacement at Glure Park.
Mr. Mayor, I move the quote from Shelby Lumber Company Incorporation for shelf roof replacement be accepted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to accept the quote from Shelby Lumber for the shelter roof at Glure Park. Any discussion?
I just want to throw a quick comment before Neil comes out. Thanks for putting the signs up on the street for that splash pad.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by aye, those opposed nay. Motion passes.
Item 13D, quote from Waka Construction in the amount of $12,144 for concrete and batting cages at the Bradshaw Park softball fields.
Mr. Mayor, I move the quote from Waka Construction for concrete and batting cages be accepted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the quotes from Waka Construction for the batting cages. Any discussion?
Is this in last year's budget? Or is it
It's in the current budget.
current one?
The one we're in.
Yeah, okay,
this
that's what I
year's.
mean.
Yes. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by aye, those opposed nay. Motion passes.
Item 13E, comments from the mayor and city council members. In compliance with the Open Meetings Act, no discussion may be held on this item.
Any comments from council members this evening? I would have just two things to say. I think it was very evident this evening, the comments made about affordable housing in Columbus, and I think without question, we all know there is a need for affordable housing in Columbus. It's a shame this particular project wasn't able to find a way to come together and meet the requirements that would have allowed it to happen. I hope it doesn't stymie things like this in the future. Obviously, there'll be people disappointed it didn't move forward, and there's people happy it didn't move forward. Again, as I mentioned, maybe if they had started in January or February, they'd gotten their heads together and found a way to move forward. That's the point. Is there is a need for affordable housing in Columbus, and we are trying to address it. We are trying to work toward that end, but it's difficult. It's a difficult end to work toward. It's a shame when something like that comes before you and you can't find a way to make it all come together, but you can't always do that. Secondly, I'd like to once again compliment staff. I know we were in front of the council and the public a month ago with refinancing proposals on bond issues and so on, and you know, we were all excited that we were going to come up with a $1.6 million savings, and it was amazing. Well, what was that number?
2.5
So our 1.6 turned into $2.5
million savings.
$1 million savings by being able to address the issue at the current time.
This is the only positive I've found of coronavirus.
With that, again, I'd like to thank staff for their efforts and their time and the timing, because it was a timing thing that was able to work, and it's a savings for the community, for the citizens of Columbus. All right, with that, we move on to resolutions.
Item 14A, resolution number R20-72, awarding the contract to Bierman Contracting Incorporated in the amount of $225,100 for demolition of the vacated senior center and fire stations.
Mr. Mayor, I move that resolution number R20-72 be approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve resolution R20-72. Any discussion?
I'd just like to say that the antennas have been moved off of this facility so it can proceed.
Awesome.
All right.
Awesome.
As soon as possible.
That would be very good. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Troy, remember, John Lohr wants a brick.
Item 14B, resolution number R20-73, approving the agreement with State of Nebraska Department of Transportation for emergency vehicle preemption installation on U.S. Highway 81 and 45th Avenue and U.S. Highway 81 and 48th Avenue intersections.
Mr. Mayor, I move for the adoption of resolution number R20-73.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution R20-73. Any discussion?
Just a question, why is this kind of happening after the fire station opened? Shouldn't we have had this maybe ready to go when the fire station opened?
Yep, it should have been done earlier. You're correct.
All right. All those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Item 14C, resolution number R20-74, setting Tuesday, September 8th, 2020, from 5:30 p.m. to 6:45 p.m., when the mayor and city council shall sit as the Board of Equalization to equalize and levy special assessments for Street Improvement District number 182, 33rd Avenue from 39th Street to Lost Creek Parkway, and Water Extension District number 62 and the Sewer Extension District number 44, East 12th Avenue, from US Highway 30 frontage road south 530 feet.
Mr. Mayor, I move that resolution R20-74 be adopted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution R20-74. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Item 14C1, Certificate of Costs, Apportionment of Costs, and Preliminary Assessment Schedules for Street Improvement District number 182, Water Extension District number 62, and Sewer Extension District number 44.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the certificate of costs, apportionment of costs, and preliminary assessment schedules for Street Improvement District number 182, Water Extension District number 62, and Sewer Extension District number 44 be approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for all of that. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Brings us up to consideration of payroll and bills on file.
Item 18A, ARL Credit Services.
Mr. Mayor, I asked to abstain from voting on this agenda item because I am owner of ARL Credit Services and have a conflict of interest.
Blonsky be allowed to abstain from voting on this agenda item and to suspend the city council rules requiring him to leave the council chambers during the discussion and vote on this agenda item.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye, those opposed nay. Motion passes.
Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve ARL Credit Services.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve ALL Credit Services. Any discussion?
I just want Brent to know that I didn't get my monthly bill in, so that $25 looked pretty small, so there's really more money that they owe me.
Just keep that in mind for the future.
Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor signify by aye, those opposed nay. Motion passes, meeting is adjourned.